Welcome to another episode of the Dentology podcast, where we discuss the business of dentistry. In this podcast series, we'll be discussing all the non-clinical aspects of dentistry, from goodwill values, finance, marketing, how to buy and sell a dental practice, mindset, through to where you can invest your money in team management issues. My name is Andy Acton, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Strevens. Let's jump straight into it. So, Dr. KP, Kunal Patel of Love Teeth.
Fascinating. What an interesting story. The thing about his, the attack. It's just that it's a real good one to listen to.
Oh, and I think there's lots of things in there for people to reflect on. How they run their life. I think he was really open and honest about, what he'd done and how he'd built his life and the reasons for it. But then ultimately the impact it had. But the success he's having with, the practices that he's opening. The work that goes into it, the commitment, running a family. I think there's so much in there for everybody.
No fear is what I got from that. The circumstances of his attack could have been massively different than the effect that it had. But also, because he took it as a positive, which is a great thing.
But also listening to how he qualified and where he qualified and what he would have been like as a young man. And how that confidence has really come on over that period of time. Because I've only known you for a fairly short period of time. I only know the Kunal that everybody really sees. You don't think of this quiet young man that perhaps didn't have the confidence he's got today. And it's lovely to see that one, he's having the success, but also for everybody else, you can change, you can evolve, you can develop.
For me, I just thought, one, it's hard enough training and passing to be a dentist, but training and passing to be a dentist whilst having to learn and write and read a different language. I mean, whoa.
Oh, very challenging. No, I think people love that one. So hi, today we are so pleased to be joined by Kunal Patel. And Kunal is the co-founder of Love Teeth with his wife, Lucy. He's a key opinion leader for a number of different organisations, but the one that I'm probably most familiar with is Invisalign, a family man and an absolute star. How you doing, Kunal?
Thanks.
Yeah, good to see you.
That was a lovely introduction. A star, hey?
Yeah.
Smallest star you'll ever see.
Absolutely, you are.
Smallest star you'll ever meet.
Not at all. I mean, you say about your pathway into dentistry, and I'm going to quote you here, so you can't deny this. I opened a newspaper and wanted to party in Prague while getting a degree and making my parents proud. So far from what actually played out. So we can't leave it there. So this sounds like a really good start point. It needs explaining.
Yeah, blow by blow account.
Explain to us kind of how that sentence came about.
So I was a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid. I didn't do the best in my A-levels. I didn't get the grades that I was supposed to get into medicine. I was too busy kitting out my cars and just not studying really, right?
You strike me as the guy that spent a lot of money on your sound system.
Definitely. Subwoofer, LED.
Graphic equalizer.
All of that.
Did you have one of those stereos where you had a little handle and you pulled the radio out and
you have to take it with you, right?
Was it one of those?
Actually,
the old Blaupunkt or something.
Yeah, Blaupunkt or Sony, right? I actually miss them days because we used to enjoy kitting out our cars. It used to be something you do. And now by kitting out your car, you're just devaluing it. And people frown upon you if you put a radio system in, right? So anyway, I was that kid. Yeah. And I didn't get the grades that I wanted to at A-levels. So I decided to do fast track through doing a BSc to go into medicine. So I went to Queen Mary's for a year. I did biochemistry. It ended and I was like, this is mind-numbing. I hated it, right? And then a younger cousin of mine finished his A-levels and he didn't do it as bad as me, but he just got into pharmacy and he wanted to do dentistry. So we were over at each other's house, I opened the newspaper and it said, become a dentist in Prague. And so I went, great, dentist in Prague. And at that time, Prague was known as the stag capital of the world. And that's all I knew of it, right? I was like, come on, cuz, let's go do this, right? I go, Mum and Dad will buy us a degree, and we'll get drunk at the same time and see what this is all about. And it was far from the truth. So we landed in Prague airport around 5 p.m. It was still daylight. This little minibus picked us up with a sign saying our names on. We got in, and it drove for about 2.5 hours, and it didn't stop. We were like, how big is Prague, right? And then all of a sudden, we're outside this sort of hostel, and they give us some keys and say, this is the room, see you later. Someone will be in touch. And we were like, what, really? Now, we come from good families where our parents, we've been sheltered, the good spoiled kids, the standard Gujarati spoiled boy, I never did laundry, never fended for myself. Everything was given to me. Oh. So all of a sudden we had to learn how to cook, had to wash our clothes, but more importantly, survive, right? We cried for about a week straight because we were locked in this room, and that movie Hostel came out that year. And it was literally the same. The toilet, bath, and sink were all in the same thing, right? Like there was a sink was in the bath, so you had to get in the bath to brush your teeth. It was weird, and the toilet's right next to you.
Oh wow!
So mum and my uncle came to sort of settle us in. They couldn't believe how bad it was. They tried to settle us in, but then over the coming week, a few more of us rejects, spoiled kids, got dumped at this place, right? So we formed a little community, and then the university.
They've actually turned this into a reality TV show now, haven't they? Don't they do this in real life and they film people?
Oh yeah, it sounds like Big Brother.
But
yeah, and it was literally like, okay. And then as more of us got there, my parents left. We cried. We still remember it. We were hugging each other, crying. They've gone. And then it became okay because we created a community. It was okay. But there was about 150 of us in our first year. In the final year, I think there was about 7 of us graduated. So.
And were those 150 from all across Europe?
Yeah, so international. So majority of us from the UK, and there was a big Scandinavian community as well. And because apparently it was cheaper to educate them outside of Norway than within Norway. So the government would fund for the education in the Czech Republic. We didn't realize how strict this university was. So we're in this town called Hradec Králové. It's more than 2 hours away from Prague. It's got nothing for entertainment. They haven't really ever seen brown people like me. And the only ones that they've seen, they've had bad impressions of, which were known as the thieves and the gypsies around that area. So we spent the first few years getting beaten up quite often by the locals. You'll get on.
Oh really? What?
Yeah.
Just race? Just out
racial stereotyping.
Like Prague was used to foreigners, whereas these villages were. Yeah. We were the first year to do dentistry, so it was a medicine uni for international students, but not for dentistry. So we more or less learned medicine for the first few years and just did a bit of dentistry at the end. So my qualification is actually MUDR, which is a medical doctor with dentistry. So we did a lot more medicine dentistry.
That's interesting.
So in terms of dental skills, when I left university, wasn't the best. Did a couple of fillings and handful of extractions. But what it was really, really good at was book knowledge, textbook knowledge. So literally, there wasn't a single exam that was written. Everything was like a Viva oral exam in English. But you had to be able to speak, read, and write Czech within the first 2 years. And that's why by the end of it, I think there was about 5 or 6 of us that graduated in my final year out of 150. Yeah. So in terms of when I think about it now and people say, could you do it again? Probably not, because the number of times me and my cousin, walked up to the bridge, Charles Bridge, the famous bridges out there. And thought, we're letting our parents down. And, I joke about it now, but at the time it was serious. Like, parents are paying £10,000 a year for tuition fees. Are we going to get through it? It was so hard, so difficult. There's many times that we thought, let's just end this. And now thinking back, it was probably the best thing that happened to me. But could I have done it again? I don't think I can. I don't know how we did it. I think, when you're a lot younger, you're not so aware of what you're doing. You're just doing it.
You're sort of just going for it, aren't you?
I think naivety in lots of scenarios is not a bad thing, because if you fully knew everything that was coming at you, or you had more information, you might not do it.
And was your cousin one of the 7?
No, no. So he actually failed one of the years, so he graduated the year after me.
Right.
So
right.
But it sounds to me. Yeah. I was going to say, it sounds to me like you learned a lot more than just dentistry out there.
Yeah, it was.
It made you grow. It made you grow up in many ways.
I say I wouldn't. The person that you've met now, that wasn't the guy that left and went out there. So when I came back and my old school friends, got to know who I was. I mean, some of them are still baffled how I've ended up on the BBC. It was a completely different person that left to who came back. I came back with responsibility. I felt as if I worked so hard for that degree. I was going to make the most of it in every possible way, and it gave me that drive.
Was that for your parents? Was that ever part of the reason for you to go and study overseas, to give you that space, or is that
get rid of it?
Well, no, but sometimes you put people into situations that are challenging, and suddenly you realise just how good they are and how they flourish. I didn't. Was that?
I think my family do have a big part to play. My brother, especially, like he made mistakes and he didn't want me to lead by them. So, my dad. I remember my dad saying to me, he was like, "I don't want to see you again until you come back as a dentist. Like, there's no point of us."
Wow.
I mean, he's
what did your dad?
He's a shopkeeper. So dad was a shopkeeper.
Oh wow.
Mum was a housewife, and then she had some building work going on at the house. And one day I see her in the garden telling these builders what to do. Fast forward 3 years, she was the owner of that building company. The guy took her in because she had the knowledge, and she became the owner of that building company. And so I think my background, and I try and explain it, the skill set I have, I learned from my mum and dad and my brother, really. And that was my dad, the way in the shop, he could communicate with anyone. I remember as a kid, I was in the shop once, and this lady came in and she bought a newspaper, and that's all she was going to buy. But my dad spoke to her for so long. She told my dad her whole life story as if they knew each other for many years. And she ended up buying extra chocolates and, biscuits for her grandchildren at that time in my dad's shop. And she left. And I said to my dad, "Did you know her?" And he goes, "No. First time I ever met her in my life, son." So that was one of the qualities I learned growing up, being around the shop, was, if you just communicate with people in the right way, and engage with them, you can change someone's life, make them happier. And also, my dad made a successful shop business out of it.
Personally, I think that communication is the most important skill we can have as people.
Builds relationship.
Yeah, I think everything else is secondary. If you can't get on with people and share stories, show empathy, care for people, and those, if you don't get through that, then everything becomes very
100%.
difficult.
Even when I'm recruiting, we're going to go on to it, but one of the main qualities I look for when I'm looking for recruiting is I don't really care what the CV says. It's about that person in front of me, and if they can communicate with me well, I know that I can train anything into them. And so I think communication,
it's exactly the same as us, Kunal.
Communication is
that's what we do, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we used to do interviews, proper interviews, and it was such a waste of time. We worked out we were taken for a coffee, and then have a coffee, because then you find out much more about them, and then whether they fit in or don't fit in. Really.
But you just want people to relax, don't you? If you have an interview structure, we all know how to prepare for something like that. Whereas if you say to somebody, "Did you go on holiday this year? Where did you go? Who did you go with?" You find out what that person's really like.
And a lot more.
Can you still speak Czech?
Yeah.
Right. If you warm me up, then yes. But not really. Yeah, I can. Languages wasn't my strong point. So my cousin was really good at languages. I was really good at drilling. So we helped each other get through the university. Literally, like we would support each other the whole way through. So I don't believe I could have done it without him, and I'm pretty sure he was saying the same.
And is Czech? I mean, I don't know. I've never seen Czech written down. Is it sort of a bit like Russian? So there's like 28 letters, so they don't really, or is it because you sort of feel Eastern European? Yeah. It's somehow harder. With French, it sort of looks a bit like English, but I'd imagine it sort of looks a bit different.
They use the same letters as us, but some of them are different. They have the exclamations and accents on them. It was really difficult. So,
Yes, it must be really hard.
I could barely speak English, let alone learn another language. So going back to the history, my skill set. So I think the mum helped me realize that anything is achievable, right? She was a housewife to become this really successful lady that everyone depends upon. She's a problem solver. Like there's nothing that anyone that has a problem, and I have a huge family, my mum's the lady to go to if you want something solved. And so I think these qualities that, and my brother just with the discipline, keeping me in the straight and narrow, I think this is what I decided to bring back. And every day I appreciate every day that I am a dentist and I'm able to do this, because I can see how the flip side could have been for me. And I live and drive off the fact that I am able to now feed 100 mouths, because we have over 100 staff members here. And I think
But you're not just feeding those 100 mouths, are you? They've got families as well.
Exactly. And
it goes deeper, that ripple effect, isn't it? It's massive.
And you know what? That's why I do the Love Teeth. That's why I did the expansion, was the fact that I felt as if I was given a tool that can help others, and I'll try and use it the best I can until my time comes.
So you've been a dentist for 12 years, although you say it feels like 50. At what point was there a day you woke up where you said, right, alongside being a dentist, I'm also now going to explore the business side of things? Was there a defining moment when that happened, or was it just this kind of creeping thoughts? How did that develop?
So my cousin, he has a successful number of clinics, 50 plus clinics. He's about 8 years older than me, so it was, and he's super successful. So by the time I came to graduate, it was, are you going to do what he did? Are you going to do what he did? Are you going to have as many clinics? Right. So it was always, there was no doubt that I was going to own my own clinic, but I was never, I always thought I'll do it differently. I've always been a bit different in our family. And then when I finally found the right practice after being associate for 4 years, I decided, I took everything that I'd learned from those around me. I was a local guy. I wanted a clinic in my local area because I knew what it was missing. I saw patients, driving all the way to Harley Street to get dental treatment done. And I was thinking, why are you going there when we can do it here? And then I looked into Harley Street. Then I found out, what is happening on Harley Street. Actually, the number of dentists on Harley Street. I thought, well, let's bring it here. So I decided to choose the slutty pink Love Teeth logo, brand it so the whole world could see. And I created our version of what patients wanted. And I think it just fell into place. I wanted my own business because I wanted to do what my dad did. I knew that I had the drive of my mum, and I always wanted my clinics, but on a different type of clinic, not based on.
And when was that first one?
In 2014. So 4 years as an associate. I found it. My cousins keep saying to me that he let me have it. Otherwise he would have bought it. As I came to view it, he was walking out. And I was walking in with my mum. But to this day, he says he let me have that clinic, which is, I do believe him. You know how it is. You guys are FTA, that there's, sellers tend to want to sell to guys who already have clinics because it's easier sell, maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. But but he let me possibly have it. And I think it was, it started from there. I made big changes very early. I had that vision.
Yeah.
I rebranded. I stuck to the dentistry that I wanted to provide that will suit us, and ran.
So that was 2014. And I have this whole thing that you can kind of build anything as big as you want if you've got the foundations right. So at what point from buying that practice in 2014 did you decide that you were going to extend this brand and end up with multiple practices? And what things did you put in place before you then started that plan? Because there's lots of people that listen to this that are either associates with big ideas and plans that they're going to execute over their career. There's other people that own a practice, and lots of people just don't understand how you then go from having one practice to then going 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're living, breathing truth that it can be done. So what was that kind of start point from one?
So I don't think that my vision ever was to grow it the way I did, or especially at the speed I did.
Oh, okay.
The way I am, and those that know me, is I'm very more or less impulsive.
Are you impatient, Kunal? You sort of
I am.
Right, want to get this done in everything.
Yeah, I think if I believe something is right and it will work, nothing will stop me, and I'll make sure it's performed and executed within weeks. I'll make it happen. So I think when I started with Love Teeth, I made some bold changes. Like, I don't think I ever saw another clinic with as huge signage and as I had. And my mindset was, well, patients, I'm not going to lose patients because of my signage. No one's going to look at it and go, oh, I don't want to go there because the signage is so big. All I'm going to get is either no more patients or patients that will actually see, oh, look, they actually provide Invisalign whitening and came in. So that's where it started. I started with that approach by letting everyone know what we do, trying to think about the mindset of a patient and how a lot of dentists believe that patients know what we can provide as dentists, but that wasn't true, because I used to have patients who were registered elsewhere that will come for me for teeth whitening. And I'll be like, why didn't you ask your dentist for teeth whitening? They'll be like, I don't think they do it. Of course, every dentist does it, right?
Yeah, they do it. Just no one told them.
So I capitalized on that. But I do have to, a lot of my success at that early stage, I don't know, you guys know him, Payman from Enlighten.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to owe a lot to that guy, because I know a lot of people in dentistry are termed as the godfathers of dentistry, but to me, he was someone when nobody wanted to touch this internationally educated dentist. No one wanted to know who I was. He had the time of day to come, and just him visiting my practice and saying, okay, you can do Enlighten here, speaking to my team. He gave me someone to latch onto, and he advised me, and he made me believe and give me that encouragement that actually the dental field isn't as scary as it seems, because back then it seemed like there was a few people doing it really well and none of us were ever going to be touching them. And he gave me
but on Payman, he is such a nice, sincere and caring guy. In fact, it was Payman. I was at a course and I was talking to Payman about his own podcast, and it was from talking to Payman that he gave us the encouragement and the idea to start this.
And that's what he's about. Honestly, he is one of them rare people that I find that actually is selfless in that way. He just wants everyone to do well, and the way he looked after his team, because I've never seen a team looked after the way he looked after his team at Enlighten, is what encouraged me and started me off. Me and Lucy came on board, so I bought Chim in 2014, my first practice. She came for an interview 6 months later. And I think her and Payman were sort of the missing pieces that I needed, in terms of she gave me that confidence that I needed to I was one of them guys that couldn't approach and talk to people. You go to a shop to buy, like you go to Top Man to buy something, for example, back in the day, and the person at the cashier will be like, hi, how are you, how was your day? I had no confidence to talk back. I'll be that guy that says yes, fine, pay and go.
Wow.
And I think having someone
transition.
Yeah,
What a transition.
and now I'm on a podcast.
I've met you a couple of times.
Now we
that
can't
would not be something
now we
attribute to.
Now
you.
we can't shut him up.
Yeah, you can't shut me up now. But I was honestly that guy, and I think in life, the few people come at the right times to make it happen. Lucy was one. Payman gave me that inside dentistry confidence. Lucy gave me the life confidence, and I think that's when it changed for me, and it started working. I created these workflows that worked. You know, in 2017, Invisalign came knocking and said, "Why aren't you using us?" And I was like, "You're too expensive." You know, the good old Patel boy came out of me in my head and said, "My dad taught me that you're too expensive. Your lab bills. I'm not using you. I'm using fast braces." And you know, fast braces made me the master affiliate provider. You know, I was doing the most cases from an NHS practice. And what they showed me, there's some technology. They didn't even have it on them. They just showed me a video of a smile simulation, a before and after. And I was like, wow, does that technology exist? And I bought one without ever doing a case. And then I didn't realize by the end of that 2017, I was the first provider ever to solely become a diamond provider within the first year. And that's Invisalign's highest status.
Yeah, wow.
And that is when all the companies started to know me, right? That's when people weren't shunning me off for being, you know.
I was going to ask you that question. Did you, by the sounds of things, you sort of had then some reluctance for people to engage with you because you were qualified overseas? And it's mad, isn't it?
And it is true, right? Like we are shunned upon, but I think one of the advantages we had is that we don't know who the GDC were, right? So there was no fear within us, whereas I find the UK grads have quite a lot of fear of the GDC, which is probably misplaced or, you know, built in from a university level.
And is that trained into them, which is why we hear this phrase defensive dentistry so much?
Yeah. And honestly,
the GDC hasn't helped itself, has it?
No,
really?
no, not at all.
It's presented itself not as the dentist champion, but almost as the dentist's anvil to beat the crap out of them.
I mean, I'm going to be careful what I say in case someone there will listen to me. But in all honesty, I teach and speak to so many young dentists these days, and they're always asking me clinical questions on a daily basis, and my answer is always yes, that's right, do it. And I just feel that they just need that bit of confidence to just sort of push them and say, go and do it. I had this saying, I don't know if it really goes down too well in the dental field, but we're not saving lives, right? We're not that important. It's just teeth, okay? So, you know, don't worry. It's not like we're doing open heart surgery or something like that. It's teeth. We know the basics. We've got the textbook knowledge. It's just about having that confidence to do it and communicate well with your patients. And most of the cases that go to the GDC are lack of communication cases. Except for the dodgy few that do a few dodgy things with patients. But it is, right? So
but we need to create. We also, I think there has to be an environment where people get supported if something does go wrong.
Yeah,
and if something's tried,
castigated.
Yeah, exactly.
Vilified. Yeah.
And you know, it's really shocking how many young dentists actually ask me questions on a daily basis. About cases, about things to do in business, you know, and it's usually just I'm having to just push them and say, yeah, that's right, do it.
Have you noticed a change, Kunal, from dentists that would have been trained 10 years ago to 7 years ago to 5 years ago to 3 years ago?
Don't get me started. Okay, no, I think so. I'm interviewing daily. I'm quite lucky and blessed that I don't have a problem with recruitment, especially dentists. That's why I do a lot of my education pieces is so I can get out there, explain what we're about. And I'm more or less interviewing daily, young dentists and old dentists, you know. There is a huge misconception by the young dentist, I believe. And this is my philosophy. So every social media platform is like a window, right? Instagram is a window that people can look in and see love teeth. Facebook is a window that you can look in majority look through Instagram when they look at us. And if you look through the Instagram window, which we cater for 20 to 30-year-old patients, okay, who is Invisalign, whitening, bonding, that market, that's all we're going to push out there. Unfortunately, that's what the dentists see of us as well. So when they come to my interviews, the first thing they think that's what I want. They think I'm looking for dentists that only do bonding and Invisalign. And I don't want general dentists. Whereas if I ask them, have you looked through my Facebook window? You'll see that we don't market that stuff. We market more implants to the older range, so, and general dentistry. So I have a thing now when I'm hiring, I will pay a higher percentage to those that want to do general dentistry.
Oh, wow,
those that want to do the aesthetics only, Invisalign, etc. I don't believe that's coming to a clinic like mine with no effort whatsoever. That's what we're bringing in from our marketing.
Yeah.
So the dent is already pre-sold by the time they come. There's not much effort happening from the dentist.
They're just order takers, really.
Yeah, it's just delivering it. What's interesting is the misconception that social media platforms are marketing platforms, that social media isn't the truth of everything you do. It's just curated for the following that suits that particular platform.
I was going to say, the smart thing, isn't it, that you've identified that certain people of certain ages use certain platforms.
Yeah.
It's smart, very smart.
Yeah. And so I have that conversation with the general dentist, and then I say to him, look, why do you want to do bonding? It's probably the most high stressful treatment you can do in dentistry, because the age range that tend to want it can't really afford it. Therefore their expectations are sky high.
Yeah.
And the way of doing bonding is so technique sensitive that unless if you're thick skinned and you can take it, you're adding more mental unrest to already a profession that is already, a high stressful profession.
But the thing is, it's talked about so much, and it's like trending, and it's on vogue at the moment, and it's the thing that everybody's talking about. But I get what you're saying, that if you're running a practice for a community and ongoing, you want GDPs. You want people that can do a broad range of dentistry and want to as well.
And honestly, if there are any young dentists that are going to listen to this podcast, right, and want to listen to it, I would strongly advise to home in on your general dental skills, diagnosing posterior fillings and using these aspects, because we don't know when trends end. The bonding trend can end. The Invisalign trend can end. And if you just made yourself niche in these areas, you're not thinking of a long-term business plan for yourself. You're thinking very narrow in the moment. And, you need your general dental skills because they save you. That's where you learn your communication skills.
It's great.
That's when it happens.
It's brilliant advice.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And that, my most successful associates that work for me, they take home maybe 20K gross a month doing general dentistry. And, that's just by really good communication skills. And that's what I train into.
But also I'd have thought also just from a variety of work. I know I'm somebody who, my attention span is not brilliant. So I like the variety of doing lots of different things through the course of a week. Yeah. If you're a general dentist, you get that as well. Because every time a patient rocks up, it's going to be a variation. Whereas if you just get tighter and tighter and tighter, and all you're doing is say composite bonding or Invisalign all the time, it must become quite repetitive, and there's a boredom that must come with that too.
And I think if you think about dentistry and technology, so my legacy I want to leave behind is I changed UK dentistry for the better for the patient and the dentist, and that's going to be working with digital and AI. And if you look at the treatments such as Invisalign, bonding, they're becoming so assisted now with technology that I don't know if I should say this, but any idiot can do these treatments, without the most experience. That the only treatments that are going to be left there that will actually need some care and some actual skill set are going to be the general dentistry, the fillings, the posterior work. At my clinic now, Invisalign has just been is just a tool to get patients through the door now. And we make our money, what we try and say, is through general dentistry. Invisalign isn't the moneymaker anymore. That's just getting the patient through the door and informing that patient, well, this is what you want, which is Invisalign. However, you can only have what you want after you do what you need, which is the general dentistry stuff.
That's a really interesting take, isn't it? On the fact of the Invisalign isn't the money monster. It's the marketing spend almost.
Well, it's almost like the bread and the milk at the supermarket, isn't it? You know, they always put the bread and the milk in a difficult place to get to. So you have to walk through the supermarket, and the likelihood is you will come out with more than just bread and milk. And I guess Invisalign, it brings people to the practice
who don't know what they
100%.
need.
It's like my
yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it was like my dad at the shop, right? The lady only came for a newspaper.
Yeah.
We made her so welcome. We make all of our patients so welcome here that they will go with more, and that's why I invested so much money on the experience of the patient. You know, thinking about the scent, the aesthetics, the sound, the flow of our clinics. I think it's really important that we think about the actual patient experience in a modern clinic these days.
Definitely.
So what was the timeline? So you had your first practice. Then what was the timeline from 2014, first practice, to kind of where we are now in terms of that growth? What does that look like?
Yeah. So going back to your original question, why did I do this jump, right? So 2014 bought the practice. 2017 I did something without realizing I'd done it with Invisalign and becoming that diamond provider. And then everything kicked off for me. I got even more confidence because I achieved something, a lot more doors and opened up for me. I then became I sort of coined ABC in a way, and we were giving everyone ABC treatments, and even naming it ABC was Lucy because it used to be called ABB. And Lucy goes, that sounds stupid to a patient. Why don't you just call it ABC? We can relate to that a lot more. And I then became so confident that I had a workflow, a patient journey that was spot on. And, we probably by the end of 2020, so by the 2017, by the end of that year, 2018, we 10 timed our turnover. So I bought Cheam was valued at 350K when I bought it in 2014. We valued it at the end of the first lockdown at 3.5 million. After the second lockdown, it was valued at 4.5 million. So within that short period of time, it was true that we had something special, the way we were treating our patients.
Well, you built a process that delivers, isn't it? You could show that you were delivering.
We're not in an affluent area. I mean, those of you that know Sutton know where I am, and we'll go on to that. So it wasn't that. I just realized that as long as you get your processes right, your patient journey correct, and your team, which Lucy worked on massively, the team spirit around here is massive. We invest a lot. That's what then gave me the encouragement to replicate what I had. Now, those that are in my management with me sort of trust my vision because they know I've done it before, but they're sort of hating me because to open 5 clinics within a year isn't easy. Is unheard of. There's squats as well. So, but they're part of the journey because we did have it cushy. I mean, if I didn't continue, it was making good money. I could have ended on just the one clinic, and they all could have had a nicer life. But we actually together as a collective, the management team, myself, is not done alone. And how is it possible? We all have the same vision. We all want to change dentistry in the UK for a better reason.
It's a really cool vision to have.
And I think if we are able to try and change this stereotype of dentists, you go to 50 different dentists have 50 different treatment plans or more. This is what you told me, Andy. But, we need to change that. We need to change that. And I think the technology with AI and digital will help change this.
It'll become more consistent, more predictable. So there's a lot of talk about the recruitment crisis, people aren't
Yeah.
working anymore, blah, blah, blah. You've opened 5 squats. So obviously you needed to resource those practices with people. You needed people to work in those practices.
Yeah.
How on earth did you do that? Because all we're hearing is there's 1.4 million jobs. We're not in an unemployment situation. We're in a we can't fill a job situation. You're opening new practices, yet you're able to fill them with good quality people. So what's the magic that made that work?
So I think once I knew wanted to grow because I had a system that worked, I quite early on identified that I was going to open new clinics. A lot of the banks were closing down, so I aimed for the Barclays banks because they're usually in prominent areas and best positions. To get a lease or get a property takes time. It's not overnight. So as soon as I knew what I wanted to do and my agenda was to open these sites, I started recruiting heavily for the one site, right? So rather than grow and then recruit, I recruited first. So yes, there may have been that we were overstaffed at Cheam, the original site. Everyone was sat on each other's laps. There were no spaces, but we recruited heavily before we expanded. Therefore, by the time we expanded, we already had people in place. Now, this was before this crisis of recruitment as well, right? So, but even then, once the places started opening and I thought I was overstaffed, things happen, people leave, and it's never enough staff because, I'm coming up with a new idea tomorrow, which is going to need 2 more staff members to look after this certain new role that I have, because I like to create new roles, right? So if you come to my clinic and ask for a breakdown of everyone's roles, they have names that you've never heard of in dentistry, right? Like an experience coordinator and all different roles. But so how am I battling the problem now? I think my team speak for and help me because they are happy. We do invest a lot of time and effort on the mental and physical well-being of my team. We like them to feel good. Coming to work should be an escape from our normal lives. Everyone's got drama, and we try and keep the energy levels high. So recruitment wise, we put ads out quite heavily. Don't get me wrong, it's tough for me as well, just like everyone else. We do have it better than most because we look attractive as a workplace. We have lots of perks of the work job. We pay well. We did a whole restructure in our pay scale within the company. It is tough, and I'm not going to say it's not a tough time. I got asked recently, would I open a squat at this moment in time? I'll probably say no. I don't think it's the right time. Let things settle down. Let's see where employment is, because it's the hardest bit about any company's employment.
Always, yeah.
And what we've created is our own training program. So we have our own so we identify there was a shortage of nurses. So we've created a campaign to recruit those that aren't nurses into us, and we'll train them. So we help them with their courseworks, we mentor them, we give them training. So there's a proper program that we have in-house. We've got 2 of my senior nurses that used to be my nurses. They're not clinical. Their job is to look after the trainee nurses from a day-to-day basis. So this is how we're tackling it, by recruiting in those that want a career in life. And nursing, we say, can open doors. So come in. So 90% of our nurses at the moment are trainees. It's very rare to have any, but our quality of nurses that we create is good because I decided that I will pay 2 extra salaries to mentor these girls, because then that will help me long term.
And I suppose you know how they've been trained, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they've been trained to
your standards. I think what was also really smart as well, you talked about you and your management team sharing the vision. And I think that bringing in the extra people to Cheam, they would have absorbed the culture of what you were doing in Cheam. So by the time they went to Sutton or wherever else, they already loved teeth people. So delivering the love teeth experience was already kind of, they understood what that was because of the time they spent at Cheam.
And if you look at my management team, only 3 of them, maybe 4, have been hired in as managers. You know, they were previous managers and they've been hired in. The rest of my management team, the other 6 or 7, have actually grown with me since 2014
Right,
or over the years. And the reason why they're in their positions is because they gave me that loyalty and trust, and they know they share my vision. So you know, when I was in the trenches, for example, when I was clinical, when I was doing everything, they were the ones next to me, so they can spread that down to the team. Whereas right now, if you see an employee, they might look at me and say, "This guy doesn't do dentistry anymore. He just drives around. He walks in, walks out." You know, but them guys are still singing my hymn sheet, saying, "You know what? This is our ethic. We work hard, but we get rewarded for it."
That's good.
So you kindly invited me down to the opening of your Sutton place, which is stunning. And I think Lucy was, that's like her passion project, wasn't it? She was bowled over by how it turned out. It does look amazing. But then there was an unfortunate event that happened just after opening the practice, and you went to the practice and you were attacked. So talk us through that.
So it was, we had the opening, we had the launch party on the Friday, which was cool. And, you know, we had some celebrities that had come in. So, you know, those of you that know Love Teeth, you know, we are big on social media. And I created the branding of Love Teeth in my head, I had a vision. And the way I was going to do it was I wanted to cater to all types of patients. So those patients that I'm a family guy, so I put it all over my social media, right? About the family life I had. I liked cars, so I put that all over, you know, social media. Lucy as well was all over social media. So we catered to all demographics. Like, we are the practice, where, you know, this is us. And part of growing the Love Teeth brand was us. It was, and you remember traditionally, people go to the dentist for that particular dentist, right? They don't go for a brand. So Dr. KP was something that we pushed quite heavily originally. From that, obviously, there are negatives that came with it. And I knew I had to stop, I had to hide, but it was about finding the right time to do it. So launch party happened, and now it's Monday. First day that Sutton is open officially. I'm out the back with a couple of my contractors. We're trying to fix the door. The builders still haven't finished, right? There's still skip. And out back, there's a little dead-end car park, and my car's parked around the corner. Now, those in the area, I'm the only guy that owns 2 Lamborghinis. You know, I was well known. I'm opening all these clinics, and at the front of these clinics have big posters with my face on, and other team members, recruitment ads. So in the local area, I am well known, and all my clinics are in the same area, right? So I just buy a Tesla because I'm about to have a kid soon. So I bought a 7-seater Tesla. No one knows I had it. I had it back 4 days. Not even my staff know I've had it. And it's parked down this dead-end alleyway. One of my builders come up to me and say, "Kunal, go to your car. There's a car that went down there, and a boy got out and he went towards your car with a hood on." Something, oh no, it's one of the local kids are trying to nick my laptop out of my car. As I go over to the car, I hear the horn of their car beep, and someone jumps into the back of the car from my car. Something, oh, the kids grabbed something. So me thinking I'm a Bollywood hero, you know, 7 foot tall, all muscle. The reality is I'm 5'5" and fat. I decide to stop this car with my hands and on the bonnet. I look through the window and I'm like, oh crap. They're grown men, balaclavas, ski masks. All of a sudden, one of them points at me. All 4 doors of the car fling open. I hear a big scream, "Oi!" and they all come running towards me. So my builders are there as well, right? So I'm thinking, let me run back to them. I'll be safe, because obviously these guys are just peed off that I stopped them, right? They got annoyed. Like, there's nothing. So I run back, I do my Bollywood antics. I think I'm Hollywood, but it turned out a bit more Bollywood. I did my Tom Cruise. I jumped over a car. I'm thinking, yes, I've escaped. But the guy's still coming. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So he grabs me and he's punching me in my face. I'm bleeding from my nose. He's broken my nose and he's smacking me. And I'm thinking in my head, where are my builders? What the hell's going on? What does this guy want? All of a sudden, I hear him say, give me your watch, you effing whatever, right? And I'm like, okay, my watch. So I literally take it off. All of a sudden, I feel another arm on my shoulder. Another guy is there. I look up and I see a massive knife, like a machete. I've just handed the watch over to the guy. Literally, they turn around, run back to the car and drive off. I get up. I'm like, where the hell are my builders? Like, what the hell's happened? Like, what a bunch of pussies. Like,
where's the backup? In the movies, you've always got backup.
Where's my backup? Right? Yeah. I've always got backup. This didn't play out like the movie. Right? So I walk back, see, like, I'm dripping with blood. I go where they are. They've all come back running out the alley. I'm like, they're like, where are you stabbed? Where are you stabbed? I'm like, I don't know. Am I stabbed? I wasn't stabbed, luckily. Then I was thinking, why them guys walked away? So the other guy had a gun. So there was a gun involved. There's a big machete.
Wow.
So we got off. So then the police come. Oh, my nurse comes out the back just then to get me. Sees these guys chasing me. Closes the door. She sees a gun. She goes into the building and gets everyone out the building out the front, thinking that we're getting robbed inside the clinic. So anyway, the police come. I employ a lot of people, and it's a new practice. I don't want to have fear in my staff, so I'm acting normal. You know, to be fair, it's not the first time I've been beaten up. As I said, I was in Czech Republic. I got beaten up on a regular, so that wasn't a problem. The police came, they saw the CCTV, and they more or less knew who the gang were. I think, from their reaction. And what they say is, you got off lucky. And I said, really? They said, so the motive of these guys really were that they were putting a tracker on your car. And what they were looking to more likely do was kidnap you at some stage, take you to your home, tie you and your family up, and raid your house. However, you've disturbed them and they've taken the opportunity to take the watch. They definitely knew what watch I wore. Now, what they're saying is this isn't ordinary criminals. This is organized crime. So I said, that's great. So what do I do to protect myself? Do I get a security dog? You know, I know some dentists are doing that. Do I get bodyguard? They said you can. However, they won't deter these type of criminals. They'll deter the lower level general, you know, youths and yobs, because professional criminals, organized crime, they'll kill the dog or wave a gun around and your bodyguard's not going to protect you anyway. So I was like, so what's the best thing I can do? I said, first of all, can you stop saying this in front of my pregnant wife? Right? They were like, look, if this isn't the only group of criminals out there, there's others. And if you've been targeted by one, there'll be others that may be targeting you now. I said, great, thank you so much for saying this. Wow. So the consensus was, they gave me a bit of advice about safe at the house and doing whatever. They said, we're going to put your status in the local community as a celebrity. And I said, oh, marvelous. So what do I get from that? They're like, nothing. I said, don't I get some like quicker response rate? They said, no. I said, can you please not put me down as a celebrity, because I don't know where this list will go. Right? It might get leaked and make me more of a target. So there wasn't much help from that side, but I decided this was the time I had to make a change. And I was a community dentist. You know, NHS is my thing. I'm on the NHS poster. I do a lot of charity work for my local community. A part of me was upset that this had happened and people in the local community would do this to me, because I think I give quite a lot back. So the first thing I did the next day is I sold both Lamborghinis. Both of them got sold the very next day, taken off my driveway. Collection of watches gone. Apple Watch life is now my life. And I decided that as as it was to reward myself over the years for, things, because I'm not a guy, I don't go out, I don't party, I'm a guy that works, goes home to my family every day. And the odd occasion, if there's an event, I'll meet Andy there and we'll have a drink, right? So my joys from my day-to-day life was that 5-minute drive to work in my car, for example, or collecting a nice watch. But I realized there's more important things. I've got a young family. I'm clearly created a target myself in life by being on social media so readily. So I think it's time. And then the weirdest thing is that I had a meeting booked with a line 3 days later. So I've got this broken nose. Everyone thinks I look the same, which I was quite offended by. That nobody could see that I had a big swollen broken nose. And then I was at this meeting and I'm sat there and there's the top providers of Invisalign in this one room. And it was not in the best top part of London. And it was a restaurant, there's about 50 of us. And I looked around the room and everyone had a decent timepiece on their hand, right? 50K average probably. And I was just thinking, we are probably one of the most vulnerable groups out there, because most professions, medics don't have that stereotype of having nice watches, right? Dentists are known as the flash idiots, right? That like to have nice watches, flaunt their stuff. And what we don't realize is we're so easily found. They just have to book an appointment with us, make sure we're at that practice on that day, and they can just wait for us after work, right? So now, I think it's time to get a bit of awareness out in our field. The police do say dentists are targeted quite heavily for timepieces. Watches are a thing that people are going for, not so much cars, right? It is watches.
I was going to say they're very expensive and they're easy to move on, aren't they? So
cars have a lot.
I mean, honestly, I'm so pleased that you're okay. I know we met at one of the dental shows very shortly after it happened, and you
thought I looked the same.
I thought the bruising around the eyes was just a late night, to be honest. But it could have been so much worse, couldn't it? It's you're telling the story now, but given the circumstances, it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, I said to my family and my whole clinic and everyone around me, like, look, guys, it should have been worse. In my head, it was supposed to happen, because something bigger was going to happen. Like, if they did get the tracker on the car, if they did do the kidnap, that's when my family and kids were going to be involved, So it was probably right what the police said. It was the best possible outcome. Them breaking my nose and making it more straight, and losing a watch. And actually, once I got rid of the cars, the watches, I did find a sense of relief, sort of a burden sort of lifted. That a part of me thought that I was identified by the guy that had the two Lamborghinis,
isn't it? What's your identity?
And you sort of fall into it, thinking, that's the thing. And in a way, I'm thinking, you know what? I had to do it for my team, because I wanted them to know that I wasn't going to put them at any more risk. I made the change. I sold the cars, so I'm not a target, so they don't have to worry.
And also for you,
themselves.
that kind of, you're so much more than shiny objects. You get to a point where it's like, there's so many things that are so much more important than that. How did your parents react?
So my parents weren't in the country; they were actually in India. And you know me, I'm very close to I still live with my parents. So me, Lucy, and the kids live with my mum and dad. So we're very close, and they were in India on holiday at the moment, and I didn't want to worry them. So once they came back 2 days after. It was weird. My mum had this sense. She actually had this feeling, and she said, like, something isn't right. I feel like something went wrong, and she on the phone that day.
Your nose?
And I remember I wasn't feeling right that day. I believe in energy. Is something that I do. Something wasn't right that whole day. So I told her once I got back, and the first thing they said is, "You're not getting on the train." I had that event in Birmingham when I was speaking. I didn't want to let a line down. I said, look, I can't let them down. A line were great. They sent a taxi, to take me from Surrey to Birmingham, which was great. I did my event and back again. But I think for them it was just they were old-fashioned parents, right? They were a bit like, we told you not to be so flash, and I said I wasn't being flash. It was the way I created a brand. It was around me, Lucy. That stuff created the brand. But obviously they weren't understanding that. They just thought I was trying to be a show off. And those that are close to me know that I like to think I'm quite humble, and like I'm not that type of guy. So
yeah.
But it was like I told you so moment from the parents, right?
It almost sounds like it was a bit of a persona, almost. Yeah, it was creating it because it suited that environment, and it suited you.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a family guy, and I wasn't ever shy to share it. But now I understood why people don't, and they hide their personal life. I understand it now a lot more. Whereas before I didn't. I thought I was untouchable, right?
Yeah. And has it changed? You obviously work incredibly hard. You've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Lucy is massively involved in the business. As a family away from business on a practical level, have things changed? Do you devote more time to the family, or is it one of those things that you just kind of have there at the back of your mind?
Yeah. Time is a healer, right? Is the best healer that's going to happen. And as humans, we have this really good skill that we forget, right? After a period of time. So I think that cautious is there from all of us. There's always that looking over my shoulder, but it did make me value what my family are a lot more, and how it can be taken away just like that, right? And I am known to be impulsive, reckless, is business-wise, confident, and it has made me rethink that. Okay, after this expansion, I have a kid coming. I'm in it. I'm going to see it through. It does take a lot of my time up, but I'm quite lucky that I built this team around me. My management team. I know, as I said, they don't come with the background of managers or these skill sets, but they've grown up around me and the business. If I didn't have them, this wouldn't be possible right now.
I don't think it's lucky either, Kunal. You said I'm quite lucky. I don't think you're lucky. I think you've put a lot of hard work. You've got a vision that you've been able to articulate and get people to join you on it. So I don't think it's one of those things. I think lucky might be sort of finding a pound on the floor. I don't think you end up with what you've got by being lucky.
Well, I like to say blessed. I think I'm blessed for every moment that I'm around. I'm blessed to have people around me that I have. Even, the times that I met you, Andy, it was like everything's meant to happen for a reason, right? And one of the things why I haven't stopped is, you make your own luck. You're right. You make your own luck. And those people that sit on and don't do things and wait for luck to come to them, it doesn't come. That's why I'm so out there all the time still. I go and do my events. I make sure that, for the top 50, I made sure I was there, because, that for other people, it might not mean a lot to me now, personally, but at one point in my life, I would have jumped at the opportunity to be invited to certain things, right? And I believe for someone else, by me being there, it means a lot to them. So that's the way I always see it. So I still make the effort. I know Love Teeth has become quite successful when we're opening all these clinics. But I know if I stop doing my engagements that I need to do, it could all change tomorrow. And I don't want to think that I'm going to put my own future and my family's future at risk by being so lazy or, taking
and
things for granted. And
life's always a balance, isn't it? There's always, various plates to be spun and things to be balanced to make sure that everything's working. So based on your whole experience of life so far, if you could whisper in the ear of 10-year-old Kunal, what would you say to him? What advice would you give yourself as a young boy?
I would have said, do more exercise and eat the veg that your mum told you to. You might be a bit taller than 5'5" and grow past the age of 10. No, but even that, like, you know, I am short, right? And I own it because maybe I would have been a different person if I was taller, right? No, so what would I say to a 10-year-old me? I don't know. You know what? I think I'm so content and happy with where my life is now, right? I think I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't go through the ups and downs of the way I was. Like, you know, the naughty kid when I was younger, having to go abroad. I think that changed me. And I think the work ethic I have now is because, you know, so I would just say just try and enjoy life
All
and
things
keep
for a
going.
reason.
No, I think that's a great message. Kunal, it's been fascinating. I think your journey into dentistry, the stuff you do on the business side, I think that powerful message about your unfortunate incident, and something for lots of other dentists to think about and consider how they might
Definitely one
consider
for
that.
people to think about,
Just how they might make adjustments in their own world. So that will be a great listen. We always finish up in the same way, where we ask our guests to answer the same two questions, just so we get a bit of consistency in how people think. So if you could be a fly on the wall with somebody in a certain situation, when would that be, and who would be there?
I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall when Alex Ferguson and United's Champions League final spoke to the team to get them to win. I would have, because, you know, leadership is something that I believe heavily in, right? And, you know, we've seen managers at United come since Alex Ferguson. I just want to know, how did he get the best out of these players? What it was it, you know, I'd just love to know his way of being on the wall when, you know, the scrap with Beckham, and to let a prima donna like Beckham go was such a big move. And, you know, in dentistry right now, you know, I've got that rock star dentist that is horrible to my team, and we're keeping them here because they earn good money. And is that the right thing to do, or do I make that bold decision and let him go? You know, I think I'd love to know how he did it and why he had the confidence
on that. Jack Welch does a really interesting thing. So he was the CEO of GE, and he has a matrix which is a square, and if you think it's like A, B, C, D, so A is top left and D is bottom right, and A are people who get your culture values and they deliver the goodies. B are people who they get your culture but they don't deliver the goodies. And in a perfect world, those people, you would train those people because they get your culture, they get your vision, but they don't they can't deliver, so you train them.
So they still have potential.
D, in the bottom right-hand corner, those are people who don't get your culture, they don't deliver, bin them off, they go. What you've just described is the C's, and that's the most complex quadrant, because those people, they perform, but they don't get your culture and values, and that's a very difficult one to understand about whether you keep those people because they're performing, or you don't because they don't get your culture. And I think if people don't get your culture and values now, they probably never will. That's something that's quite deep rooted. So it's the most challenging quarter to think about.
The others are sort of easy.
I like that. I wrote that down. That's
so
really
so
good.
cool. That was good. So we're in the dressing room. We've got Alex Ferguson. So then the second one is, if you could meet somebody, who would you like to spend some time with?
Who would I like to spend some time with? Other than you, Andy. Andy and Chris, my two buddies. Who would I? Do I go sport? No. Should have thought about this, right? No. I mean, it'll probably be Alex Ferguson again, just to know, or I don't know. It could be someone like Ronaldo again. I know I'm sticking with the sports theme, but for what he's performed, he's my age. And we do not look alike, right? And I know, physically, right? I know his profession is to be fit, and mine isn't. But like he's still going at his age, you know, at the top of the tier. I like to think.
I think the common thing across both those is there's kind of leadership. It's about high performance, and it's about getting into the it's getting into the
performance. To get it going.
it's getting into the head of people that perform at that level.
Yeah, and I would love to have the discipline that someone like he must have.
Yeah,
I just don't. You know, I mean, I'm disciplined in hard work every day. Don't stop working. But I'm not disciplined enough to get the right balance in looking after my own health at the same time. And I think
but then equally, I suppose, going back to that point you were saying, we only see the bit we see. So we see the bit on social media, incredible body, incredible footballer, but at what price? There will be a cost. There will be a cost to that, isn't it? So let's find that balance.
Yeah. And that's why when I would have probably said Ronaldo off the top of my head right at the beginning, a part of me now thinks that, is he actually a nice guy that I want to meet because he's about to leave United again?
But he wants to go to his team. He's going to go somewhere.
Club loyalty before anything else.
Exactly.
It's been an absolute joy. Thank you very much indeed for your time. We know that you're busy because we've heard it today. You've got a lot going on. We're so glad that you're well as well. That is good. We'll leave the camera with us today, and hopefully we'll be catching up soon somewhere.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you both. Thank you for your time.
Really good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Dentology, where we discuss the business of dentistry. If you like what you heard, please do subscribe where you found this episode. That would be amazing. And also follow us on Instagram.